evening, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts number 419, display panels. And I have, well, an inserted pickup fixes with a picked up inserted mojo. How you doing?
What do you mean inserted?
Don't question it. Just roll with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving swiftly along.
Yep. So, we have our facts for the week. And technically we're both wrong. This does not involve biters. It does not involve FAQs. Didn't you say quality of life thing? Maybe it's a quality of life thing. It's sort of a quality of life thing.
I mean, if you can take the sign off its base and then beat some biters with it, then does that count as offensive?
Not really. So,
Or also being offensive is the fact that the sign is a wooden power pole, the bottom of a wooden power pole, and the side of a wooden chest.
We haven't got to the pictures yet, but yeah, they were. Yeah. They were. All right, so welcome to our Friday Facts. Okay, signposts or bulletin boards are a common sight in video games, probably not far behind the ubiquitous wooden crate or explosive barrel. They're a nice, clean, understandable way to communicate with the player, and was something you wanted to see in Factorio for a long time. So then we had a display panel design by Arendelle. Full function of the new display will be fully explained below. For the design, all we need to know is an entity that can display an icon of choice, item recipe, virtual sign. And the first version I saw was a signpost added by Clonin. It was a nice placeholder. In the general concept of display entity as a signpost was something to consider. In theory, a signpost could work, but there are a few detracting factors. Signpost is primarily a 2D structure. By that means it's tall and flat, doesn't have much depth. If a signpost supporting post in the middle of the tile, then it's a tall-ish entity that pushes the display area up and outside the tile that the entity occupies, which is always a problem. It's always something that devs have been very concerned about. You have the ability without being able to rotate the camera to be able to see what's behind something. If the signpost is moved forward, so the display keeps more within the entity tile, then it's mostly a 2D structure. It looks like most tile behind it is unoccupied and looks weird when lined up with other things. The display surface ends up as a vertical rectangle, but the icons appear on displays are icons designed to be seen in a GUI or a horizontal plane, like the ground or transport belt, make all the icons look more out of place and fight against Factorio's apparent camera projection. So we have the signpost, which is
it's a wooden power pole with the side of a wooden chest.
Yeah, Mojo's 100% correct. Yeah, I
think it's also stretched slightly. It's off, actually.
The post or the box?
The box.
Enlarged, and yeah, probably stretched a little bit. Okay, if any version of the signpost was going to work, it would probably need to be more like one of those temporary road signs that sits on the ground and leans on some sort of triangle support struts. The bigger problem is neither of these options has the right aesthetic. So flat designing, we had a display plate. Now we've had display plates in Factorio as a mod for a very, very long time.
There's been various mods that have done the same thing in some form or another.
Yeah, I actually really, really like the ones that lets you put down text plates. Text plates, I think, is the name of the mod. It's
text plates.
Yeah,
text plates.
It
just lets you put text down.
Yeah, it lets you just write on the map with, well, different resources. So, steel, iron, copper, blah, 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 blah.
And it changes the color and the appearance depending on the
material, yeah. So design plates with their first mock-up. There would be broad, blocky, mostly horizontal display surface would look more matched with the icons we have. More akin to a metal display plaque that you might see in an old industrial museum or war memorial. That's what I was thinking with the bottom row. They've got an example there. The icons were drawn on the surface really should be squashed in the vertical axis, a bit because of the camera direction. To avoid this, I tipped the surface forward slightly to face the camera. A lot of display plates are angled towards the expected head position of a standing reader. So this looks reasonable. This looks reasonable. We could get away with this.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's manageable. You could actually pass this off as a really nicely made mod.
You could. This is like your first step.
The bottom row could actually, you use those in a mod for death chests.
Oh, actually, I like that idea. I wonder if they're going to release some of these assets that they've made.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, big brain right there. I wonder if they're going to release some of these assets.
There's your wrinkle brain. There's your wrinkle brain from the fruits on Moldy Planet. Fugola.
Yeah.
Fungola.
Okay.
Moldy Planet.
So, it wasn't intended to be a proper design. It wasn't the usual 4K resolution of concept art. 4x resolution of concept art. Even so, it worked better than a signpost. Both put in the game for a few months, even managed to sneak its way into a few Friday Facts. I have never seen them in a Friday Facts, but maybe they were there. Then they had the second design with more circuits. When time to go do a proper design, some of the requirements had changed, but no longer just a static display. It had circuit connectivity, changed the icon, and more. It was also unlocked later as part of the circuit network system, along with the combinator's power switch and the programmable speaker. As such, the new display entity would look like it's part of that level of technology. The new design is based on a combinator-style base, with all the combinators different, so the base of the display is also the same but different in a consistent sort of way. I like the early concept art.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
So for the display itself, they went for a CRT style, which I really like. Sort of curved display is surface ideal for the aesthetics of the part of the tech tree. Screen of this sort is normally angled forward, but if you look at a lot of the old NASA displays, a lot of them are angled quite heavily upwards. So if you're not familiar with them, the old NASA displays, they're the old CRTs in the NASA displays. They're not actually put on the table like an old CRT would be. They're actually mounted in the table, and
they're inside.
Yeah,
and they're part of the cabinet.
Yeah, and they're lent up at, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 degrees.
Something like that, yeah.
CRTs are very, very readable from every angle. And that was one of the pros. That's why they hung around for so long, and we took so long to get LCDs sort of become the mainstream. Because, well, if anybody remembers the old Game Boy and try to look at that,
yes.
Unless you're looking directly on, there's just nothing on the screen.
And looking at it with
outside
sunlight shining into it.
Yeah. Looking at it outside or in a well-lit area, it just didn't exist. CRTs.
No, were those backlit the Game Boy? I genuinely don't remember at the minute.
They did have a later version that was backlit.
Yeah. And yeah, it was completely passive.
It was not the Game Boy Color. It was like the Game Boy Plus something. The Game Boy something. They had a backlit version eventually, and it was an optional button. You could turn it off.
The Game Boy Color didn't even have a backlight.
No. So, Mojo's getting old. All right. So, CRTs were very, very, very good for their time, and they hung around for a long time because LCDs were just not there, and they didn't get there till, I don't know, 2000-ish, 95,
even
somewhere there. They sort of started.
So here's something, a fun tidbit. The inner city train stations here were using CRTs until the late 2000s because they just lasted. They were put in there in the 80s, and they just kept on going.
Yeah, CRTs also had a very long lifespan.
I mean, they were very, very cooked by that time. Like, some of them were almost unreadable. They were so burnt out. But
well, that was
comparatively, the LCDs they replaced have already been replaced once because they've already died.
Well, I have an LCD that I bought in 2000. 2000? Roughly... probably 2002, 2004, somewhere in that.
Probably be more like 2003, 4, because a 2001 would have been like a 14-inch. It would have been would have had a massive bezel and VGA only.
Excuse me, it has HDMI. No, it has. Oh god, it's not HDMI. It's DVI. It has DVI. It has VGA. It has very large bezels, and it's a 4x3. So don't you start on me. It is probably bought in 2002, 2002, 2003, 2004, somewhere in that vicinity, and it still works. Okay, and I've got two of them.
Was it a? I think it was a Samsung 940B.
It is.
I thought so. That was like the first good LCD. Before that, and everything around it was terrible. It was like the only good one you could buy back then.
It is. I have two of them, and they still work. There's lots of screens that I've bought since that I've killed and thrown out, but these two still work. And the sad thing is they still work, so I don't really want to get rid of them. But they're a 4x3, and trying to get them to plug into things is getting harder and harder because there's not a lot of connection options. Anyway, so
you could just get an HDMI adapter.
I have one. Yes.
So it's just funny because those things like, in a way, it's a historical artifact because it was the only good LCD of its time.
It was, but also 3 times the price of everything else.
Oh yeah, they were hideously expensive.
Yeah, but it has lasted. I was playing
ridiculous
when 16:9 screens were common. I was still playing on a 4x3 because I owned 4x3s. Because they still worked, so I hadn't replaced them. All right, and they were 14-inch, 15-inch, and by then 19-inch 16x3s were common. 21s were becoming more common, but I was still playing on a 14-inch 4x3 because it still works. So I didn't replace it. But back to our CRTs in Factorio. So the CRT screen in the combinator thingy is angled up about 40 degrees, so it's nearly facing the camera view. But you can still see some of the interesting details on top. So this was the early concept art, and then we actually have the 3D render, and they have the whole base of the structure rotating around, so you can have the hookups for the circuit connection, because they are going to have these hooked up to the circuit network. Now, my first question is, can I get some of these renders, please? Like, I'd really like them as like a backdrop for like intros, outros, that sort of stuff. You know, just happy with a JPEG image. That's fine. I don't need animated or anything. I'd love the Blender files, but I'm probably asking too much. I just want, something nice for a backdrop, because I know, even though these end up so small in game, Woob designs all their assets at like ridiculous scales in Blender, and then they're rendered down to such low quality that you lose a lot of the detail.
So much detail, so much of the good detail is lost.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
I'd just like some higher resolution.
I mean, they all do that. All of them do that. It's just that
every company does.
Factorio is one of the few times that we actually get to see it.
Yeah. Well, even I've gone and looked at a lot of the old Friday Facts where we see these sorts of images, and they've had them larger than normal. Like there's one for the Steam engine, very, very early on the Friday Facts.
Oh yeah.
And it has way more detail than one in game.
The FFFs leading up to version 15 has some really, really nice railway track stuff from when they updated the original railway graphics, the RoboPort.
And homework
as well. Go
to the Friday Facts. Link is on in the description. And then once you get there, go look. I think it's screenshots, and they have some high resolution, like designed to be wallpapers for Factorio. And one of them is the flamethrower turret, and the detail on that just does not exist in game. That's another one I'd really like. I'd really like that one. Yeah, I'd really like a high resolution version of that as well, because I would probably put the effort into animating it with a little bit of fire popping out the end or something. But yes, continuing on with the Friday Facts. So the second area, so the screen stays the same, but the base rotates, which is fine. And
that means you can get the wires out of the way depending on which way they come.
Yeah, it does. Also, technically you can rotate things on the ground after they've been placed, so it means that in theory you can always move the wires out of the way. Now the question is, can you flip them? So can I have my green and red on the other side? Because now I can flip things.
Real questions.
Yeah. Okay. So it does help keep the screen clear, which is the important thing. And
I thought so.
Yes. Okay. So design looks pretty good, but we need to test it before coding files. There is no 3D model yet, but we're made if we decide that we're happy with this version. I'm pretty sure they're happy with the version. I like this version. And so then we get the functionality. So first off, we have, show a message. So we can put in some sort of icon. Yep. And by default, message invisible when display panel is hovered by the player. So you can have an image with a message, and the message comes up only if you hover over it. But they decided that we want to have more information, so you could turn on alt mode, and then you could get the pop-ups for the messages always showing, which is very, very handy. They all over here, modules don't touch. Clean up these belts. The belts are fine. They work. Don't bother. They're fine. Just leave them. They look pretty good to me. Except
they're pretty straight.
There's an inserted chain, I think, moving things. Maybe that.
Unless that's a message for V45,000 to clean up the belts.
Oh yeah, because he'll do a great job. He'll do an amazing job.
That's how you get the belts cleaned.
Oh yeah. So I've done a whole lot of community maps, and it was always people jump on for the first time and be asked, "Is there a mall? Where is the mall?" And my answer was always, go to map view. On the buttons on the right hand side, there's a little icon there that you can click that turns on all the icon recipes on map view. Then look for a big chunk of assemblers that don't have the same recipe. That's where probably the mall is. If you find 2 or 3 of them, ascertain which one we actually need and get rid of the others, because generally we end up with 2 or 3. But yeah, I do like this feature that anybody can join and therefore quickly and easily get directions. because that really sucks sometimes. But yeah, so for short messages, okay, we can't just spam whole paragraphs to players all the time. Spam only the first line of text would show, and then the full message appears only when hovered. Modules, don't touch. Every time I come back to base, all the modules are gone. Seriously, stop stealing them. It's beyond frustrating. I put them in a chest for a reason. Yeah, I can relate.
Your mistake there is not making more. That's my response to that.
Yeah, that is true. That is 100% true. Yeah. If you just made twice as many, then people would complain there were no red circuits and blue circuits and green circuits. And then your answer is, well, why are there no red circuits, blue circuits, green circuits?
Why are
Because you haven't fixed
more
them.
Circuits? Make me more circuits.
Yep.
Stop slacking.
Yep. And then it's adding more speed modules to make it go faster. You're like, well, you keep using more. Make more circuits, then we'll have more modules. Then you make them go faster. All right, showing icons. So it felt natural when allowing you to set an icon to show. It doesn't really need an explanation. You pick an icon, it's drawn on the entity. Except we took it a step further. With the show in chart option, which takes the usage display panel to the next level. So we have chose the icon and the first line of text the map on chart. So now I can see it on the map, which is really handy because
very useful.
Previously we had the map markers. We've had them for a long time. But the current iteration, you can't move around anymore. Previous iteration, you could move them across the map, which was handy.
It used to be unlocked to, like, it wasn't locked to a grid in the past as well.
Oh, that's true. It wasn't. And what would happen is you go to click on somewhere on the map and you accidentally click on the icon and move the icon again for the 32 time. So I understand why they locked them down, but now trying to get them put down right where you want them is a giant pain in the ass. Yeah.
The other thing is you click on one and accidentally drag it on top of another one, and now they're stuck together forever.
Oh yes. So that has now hopefully been improved with we can now turn an icon and just see it up on the map. Clicking on the map opens the signpost for easy editing, quite similar to the custom tagging system. Doesn't need manual management when you add or remove part of the factory, and of course cover it, making it work with the new parameterized blueprints. So staying in our standard design, we'll have a display panel with the correct icon for perfect alignment. I can already see it. There is going to be what are they called? The one with the rail grid, the factory town thingamajiggy bob, city blocks. There are going to be city blocks. There are going to be city blocks blueprints straight away with these things everywhere.
Yep. And do you know what else? Well, there's two things actually. First thing is this is effectively the programmable speaker that we really want, because it can show things without beeping at you and flashing the icon.
Yes.
In the alerts. But also, because you can display anything, you can tie one to setting the recipe of an assembly machine or chemical plant or such.
Yes. So you could have a constant combinator where you set the recipe for everything, and that includes this guy, or possibly you could set the icon for this guy, which would set all the recipes for all the machines, and then you could feed in everything.
Or you could, instead of having a constant combinator, you have it decide what to produce, and then it can then automatically assign the entire production chain.
Okay.
And it can display it.
That's legs up the top right, the top left.
Oh,
Has that changed?
Doesn't look like it. I mean, it's hard to tell because of what it's on some not very nicely contrasting colors.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it is technically the thumbnail icon as well.
Is it?
Which is significantly enhanced.
Yeah. That's an icon that probably needs a revisit. Anyway, so connecting to a circuit network. Connecting the display to the circuit network opens a whole new can of worms. Initially, we didn't know how we were going to do it. Entering text with circuit network isn't something that can be done. So decided on a simple system. You can specify a list of messages, each with its own condition. List is evaluated from top to bottom. You can drag to reorder. The first message that passes is the condition shown. So we can have iron low, copper low, plastic low, everything is okay. I don't need an everything is okay sign. That is the alarm going...
Surely you need an everything is okay alarm, and we can link it to a programmable speaker that gives you an extremely loud alarm every 3 seconds to tell you everything's okay.
No, I have that. It's called the little red icon in the bottom right-hand corner that signifies attacks. If it's not going off, there is something wrong. Okay? Otherwise, you're doing it wrong.
The red exclamation mark.
Yes, that's
goes bwap, bwap, bwap.
Yeah. If it's not going off, then you have a problem. If it's going off, that is the everything is okay alarm. Yeah. So we added functionality using any signals, a wildcard for setting the icon, so you can make a dynamic combinator, the displays, and then we have a display panel hooked into. Oh my god, that's a lot of That's a lot. Which leads us to a combinator bank that selects a recipe for all the crushes and displays the panel shown on the current output. Yuck.
I like the look of this.
You know, somebody's going to design this in like week 1, and yuck. I'm going to have little flashing icons all the time with so many wires that is it selects a recipe for all the crashes, so it's actually setting the recipe of what the crashes are meant to be doing.
Yes.
Yeah, yuck. What happens if a crash is
you
halfway?
Actually,
hang on, Mojo. What happens if a crash is halfway through a recipe and then the recipe is changed on the crusher?
I imagine it would keep going until the end.
Well, if you do it with an assembler or anything else, it aborts the recipe.
Yeah, but I thought it acted more like a mining drill.
As in, finish this process and then change recipe.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're doing it means it probably does.
It probably does. It probably finishes the current recipe and then changes. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, a complete tangent is that I thought of was unrelated thing was that you could use this as a flip dot display. You make it display the text circuit signals, so you could write out stuff using them.
Oh god, no thank you. All right, so then we come on to
even though you can put text into it, you can make it display text.
No. All right, so then we have inserter pickup fixes by Twinson. When playing with the new fastest transport belts, I noticed a problem. In some situations, even the fast inserters were not able to pick up items from belts. They were just about reach but miss. A similar problem that was always in the game is burner inserters not being able to pick up from items on express transport belts, a problem which I personally found annoying and no gameplay benefit. This has been a thing.
This is interesting because he says express transport belt, but it's actually everything other than yellow belt burners can't pick up from.
They can pick up from red sometimes.
Sometimes, but if it's the same loading as that blue one, it fails.
It fails. Yeah, look, most people probably noticed it with blue belt, because that's when it's become apparent. Red belt is sort of like a 50-50 situation. But definitely a blue belt, like, burner inserters are screwed. Unless it's backed up, unless it's not moving properly.
Yeah, it only works if it's backed up.
Yeah. Burner inserters are screwed. So yes, we have burner inserters definitely failing. It's been in the game forever. But also with the fastest belts, red inserters and blue inserters are suffering, which would be bad. Although
it's interesting, because I don't remember them on. Oh, I know why. So the reason why. So the thing, what I was thinking of was Factorio Extended. It had even faster inserters that deals with it.
It does. It does.
For the two tiers, for the green and purple belt.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure stack inserters just cover the problem entirely, just because of the way they work. The fact that they scoop things.
Because the way they sort of stutter.
Yeah. So yeah. This has been a problem forever, and I do remember, I'm sure it was RCD who did a previous Friday Facts where he covered this, and he was doing inserter optimizations, and then he looked at this problem, and he's like, yeah, no, that's base game. That's just not going to touch it. It's fine. I could fix it. You know,
no idea where to find it, but I'm sure it's been looked at before, or at least an adjacent issue.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was when RCD was going through and optimizing inserters to make sure that the code for an inserter fit inside a CPU cache. It was that optimized.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about like current CPU caches. We're talking like a cache from a couple of years ago. Right. Oh, actually, maybe it wasn't where we were going with small and cache. I think it was going through the single amount of data a CPU can receive and process all in one continuous thread. So it was all passed into the CPU at one hit, which hasn't changed. So like 64 bytes, bits. Very small.
Fundamentally, it would be more or less the same. It was basically compressing the amount of data down and streamlining it in a very
low level assembly code sort of optimization. Yeah.
In a way that mere mortals cannot possibly understand, except for maybe.
I can understand it was written in a Friday Facts. I can understand it was written in a Friday Facts and dumbed down for me. Yeah. Yeah. So, this problem has been a problem for a long time. Looking at the slow motion, especially the bonus example, it looks like the hand reached the item just fine, so it should pick it up if it's close enough. Implementing some sort of snapping should fix both issues. As usual, it's not that simple. So let's have 2 independent movement speeds. Rotational speed and extension speed. So rotation is how fast the arm spins from left to right, right to left, up to down, all the way around. And extension speed, which is how fast the arm reaches out and grabbies. After debugging, turning that extension speed was just too slow, so the arm won't rotate the correct angle, but the hand would take its sweet time to reach the correct length. So buffing this value for the inserters helped. I also improved the snapping logic, so inserters will snap better the item when it's close enough, which now means we can use burner inserters on blue belt. But I haven't seen burner inserters on green belt. That's going to be the next question.
That's the question that's not answered.
Yeah. Week one of Space Station coming out. Why are my burner inserters not picking up my coal from my super duper fast belt?
Never mind any of the other questions related to that. It's just why isn't it doing it?
Why am I using burner inserters when I'm in super duper fast belt? Probably why am I burning coal for power at this stage? Yeah, there's lots of other questions, but we'll just leave those there. With the buff changes...
Could be Fungola, where you're short on lightning power.
Maybe, but I also assume you're not doing terribly well on coal either, for the record.
In theory, because the ocean is oil, you'll be using solid fuel.
Yeah. So this changes both issues to fix. The set is now more consistent, less prone to frustrating failures. Also gives them a small buff when taking from transport belts, which means that so many people are going to have to do recalculations. You have ruined so many people's days, or made them that much better, because every single person has optimized the hell out of the game to do like these, 10,000 science per minute bases. We're working on some very important numbers when it came to how quickly an inserter could grab from a belt or from a box or all these sorts of things. You've changed the rate at which the arm stretches and unstretches, which is going to change all those numbers. Yep, so that's what I have for the Friday Facts. That brings us to the next question. Mojo, we're happy with the display panels, I assume?
Oh, yes. Very, very happy.
Very, very happy. Okay. And your prediction for next week?
Which is funny because given that most of the FFF is about the display panels, it pales in comparison to the inserter fix. The inserter fix is probably the single biggest thing for me.
Oh, it's... I upgrade to fast inserters like so fast. As soon as I have them online and I can start making them, every Yo inserter gets retired.
It is a massive quality of life improvement.
And burner inserters, I have one power plant, the primary first power plant, that lives on burner inserters. Everything else gets yellows when it comes to coal power plants. Eventually, when blues are just more common than yellow inserters, then I end up using blues. But I always have one that stays on the worst belt possible, running on burner inserters. So I have a guaranteed, if everything goes bad, there is going to be some power coming to the network because they run on burner inserters.
You're not running it on nuclear? Nuclear powered, or do you run nuclear fuel to your burner inserters to fuel your nuclear reactors?
I have done burner inserters into a steam boiler, into a steam engine running on nuclear fuel. Okay, it has been done. The biggest problem you have is it takes a very, very long time to fill up all those belts. There is a lot of belts to fill up when it comes to replacing your whole coal line with nuclear fuel.
Yeah.
And every single item has a buffer of 2 or 3 items, which when you're talking about 2 or 3 nuclear fuel, not 2 or 3 bits of coal, that really, really adds up.
Oh, yes.
So, I have done it. It takes a while. I really recommend you add nuclear fuel early with a priority splitter to, keep the nuclear fuel flowing and leave the coal there for quite some time. And then when you notice there's a substantial amount of green on the belt and not nearly as much coal, then maybe you cut your coal line or maybe downgrade the belts a few times to run slower, or, use priorities to cut the belt speed even slower than the 15 for a yellow belt.
Either that or just YOLO it, cut off the old supply and go get a coffee. And just watch the fun.
No.
Watch the base get eaten as it shuts down.
No.
And eaten by biters.
I've done it. It's not fun. It's not fun. But predictions next week. That's the bottom line.
We really got to see some enemies soon. Seriously.
He finally agrees with me. We're what, 14 weeks out? 13 weeks out?
Yeah. I mean, there's still time to really
there is time.
ball it for another month or so.
There is time, but I want to know what I have to kill, and I want to know what options I get to kill it with.
I don't think we've been formally introduced to the rest of Moldy Planet.
No, I do believe there's more multi-planet stuff to come. I do believe there's a whole nother planet to come. I do believe there's a lot of things we don't know about. I know, I'm willing to bet there's going to be a new tier of power armor, even though we already know that you don't get power armor Mark II where we got it currently. It's going to be after you've made it to a different planet, so it's going to be further down the tree. After you've made it to space.
I'm actually on the fence with the final planet, whether or not they'll actually show it. They might just not show it at all.
I think no matter what,
a high level.
No matter what, we're going to get a teaser of it. We're going to get some information.
At minimum, a teaser, but I can fully see not getting a full reveal.
Every new planet has had at least 2 Friday Facts dedicated to it. One has been a teaser, giving you background, and the second one has been a bit of a deeper dive, breaking up some of the things that make that planet unique. I think no matter what, we're going to get the first one. We're going to get that teaser. I don't know whether we're going to go get the extra information, but we'll see.
Because we haven't really seen the jelly cubes the moldy jelly cubes from Gleba.
We haven't got an answer about Stomp Stomp Stomp. We haven't seen what the floating thing is from Friday Facts a very long time ago, 2 years ago now, plus.
Yes.
With a floating tentacle thing.
Didn't they allude to potentially in the last week's roundup one with the release date? Didn't they hint they might show?
They didn't really. They gave us a release date.
Yeah, and then recap.
Release date, recap, and we covered a whole lot of things that were not covered so far. So beyond, they do say new enemies and defenses. So we do know that there's going to be new enemies. There is also going to be new defenses. So we know about a rocket turret. We don't know what the enemies are. And we don't know about extra armor, extra equipment, extra options. So your money for next week is biters. Is it? Is it biters? Joining me in the biter train?
I think we're due for biters. Either that or possibly something gardening related, weeding, that sort of thing.
Okay, biters or back to plants. Okay, my money's biters. Has to be biters. I'm going. That's it for the next 12 weeks. I've been wrong so many times. It's gonna be biters every single time. Even the week we're told about biters, the week after that will be biters.
You're going for the broken clock approach.
I have to be right at least once. Yes, biters.
Got to be right once.
Biters. All right, that's it. We're out. Thanks for joining us. It's been a blast. We'll see you next week for more Friday Facts. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.